Portland is in a housing crisis and has been for some years. This is an immensely complicated and emotional issue, and much has been said about it. But one thing that hasn't been discussed is football, because looking at a map of where U.S. football teams are located actually tells us a lot about what is happening in Portland. If you look at a map of NFL teams, you might notice that Portland doesn't have one, and there is a big empty place in the northwest of the U.S. with only the Seattle Seahawks. On the other hand, professional football teams are thick across much of the eastern part of the U.S., including in cities like Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Kansas City, all in metro areas that are smaller than the Portland metro area. Portland has a professional basketball team that we like very much, and more recently a professional soccer team that we also like very much, but doesn't have a professional football or baseball team. Why is that? I looked at the population of the Portland metro area in the 1970 census and in the 2020 census, and then I compared that to some other metro areas. There are two caveats here. First, this data is cherry-picked. I am looking specifically at metro areas that started out larger than Portland and became smaller. Also, statistically defined metro areas don't always reflect actual communities. For example, the Portland metro area does include Vancouver, Washington, and even Multnomah County. Still in Multnomah County, Oregon's smallest and most urban county, but about half the county just looks like this. Those caveats aside, this chart shows that there are 9 metro areas that were larger than Portland 50 years ago and smaller now. Additionally, I included New Orleans, which was slightly smaller than Portland then, but is much smaller now. These areas don't all show the same pattern. For example, Pittsburgh has actually declined in population, while others, such as Indianapolis, have increased in population, just not at the same rate. Of these metro cities, most are in the eastern Rust Belt, with one, Providence, in New England. The reasons why these metro areas have lost population while cities like Portland have gained is something you can find a lot of theories and opinions about. But whatever the theories and opinions, the basic truth is, over the past 50 years, the Portland metro area has gained population, more than doubling in size, while many metro areas have either lost population or have increased slowly. 50 years ago, Portland was an out-of-the-way natural resources town that most people didn't think about. When I was a child in the late 1980s, I would watch television shows like Family Ties that showed typical American middle-class life, which of course took place in Columbus, Ohio. At the time, these cities were the core of the country, big enough to have their own football teams. But over the past 50 years, Portland has become, if not a major U.S. metro area, at least one of the larger medium ones. We still don't have our own football team, though. So behind all of the theories and opinions, there is some simple math about housing in Portland. Over the past 50 years, Portland has gained 1.5 million people, which over the course of 18,000 days equals a little more than 80 new residents per day. Depending on the size of a dwelling unit, that averages out to needing to build about 20 to 50 new homes or apartments every day for the past 50 years. Looking at these numbers, it makes sense that with such high and consistent demand, the supply of housing has had trouble keeping up. I find myself surprised that one question isn't asked more, not about why the Portland area has a short supply, but why it has such a high demand. Again, this is a cherry-picked example, but why are people paying $500,000 for a house in Portland and under $100,000 for a house in Cleveland? Why does this map and this chart look the way they do?